skills review, just a few things I want to show you on a calculator to make sure that you're not solving this out, getting a common denominator, spending all your time turning those into 12s and working with GCFs and LCDs. Instead, you should be able to use your calculator. First of all, knowing the difference on your calculator between a negative and a subtraction sign. They look the same on this problem, but if you have a Texas Instruments calculator or any like it, you have to know the difference between a negative sign, which is this guy down here, and a subtraction sign up there. First difference. Then looking for your fraction button. You're going to type in negative 5 fraction, ABC, 6, subtract 1 fraction, 4. Where's that fraction button? If it's one like mine, it's ABC, like this. Some others have, it actually looks like a fraction. It has a picture of a fraction on it. Find your fraction button and figure out how that works. When I type it in, it actually doesn't look very fraction-like. I'm going to go negative 5 fraction 6 subtract 1 fraction 4. And it gives you these little markings in there for fractions. And I don't know how yours looks, but mine looks like negative 1, little hieroglyphics, a U, and a 1/12. Okay? That's just telling us that it's negative 1 and 1/12. Negative 1 is the whole unit, the whole number, and then 1/12 is the fraction. But most of the time in geometry or algebra or pretty much any of your math classes, you're not going to want a mixed fraction like that. You want an improper fraction. So instead of working with the mixed number, you want to take this button in light blue here, turn a mixed number into an improper fraction. But since it's written in blue, you're going to have to hit second first. So if I hit second up here, and then my fraction button, it says I'm going to take the answer and turn it into improper. Hit equals. Now we have negative 13/12. That's how you'll be expected to answer your problems on any assignment. Negative 13/12 is correct, not negative 1 and 1/12. But it all can be done right on your calculator in the palm of your hand rather than trying to do it in your head. Other issues with calculators, here's a problem with absolute value. 21, that is not parentheses. You can't use the distributive property. You can't multiply them together. You have to take care of the absolute value of negative 7 plus 4 first. There's not an absolute value button on these kind of calculators. So you do negative 7 plus 4. Find out that's negative 3, but remember that absolute value turns anything negative or positive into a positive because it measures distance. So equals 3. Now you can go ahead and type it into your calculator. 21 times 3, not all of that, minus 4 power 3. And again, I'm expecting you to type in 21 times 3, subtract 4 power 3. There's your power button. It's right over here by your x squared. Some of yours, again, they'll look a little bit different than on your calculator, but find them. You're not typing in 4 times 4 times 4. And you should get negative 1 out of that. I don't want you to first calculate absolute value, then calculate 21 times 3, then calculate 4 to the power of 3, then calculate what that equals minus that equals. There's no need to turn that into so many steps. It should be do the absolute value, type it in on your calculator. If by some chance you do have a graphing calculator, there is an absolute value button on there. It's called ABS. It is in your math buttons. So if you hit math and go over one up here to number, the very first one is ABS. Whatever you put in the absolute value, just make sure that you close it. So as you can see here, you could write just the entire equation all at once and get the negative 1. All right, just a friendly reminder on adding like terms. If you have 3 times 6x, you do that first. 3 times 6x is 18x. And you're going to want to add 18x's to 7x. The tendency is to turn that into an x squared. But don't do that. It's a positive sign. 18, or it's a plus sign, not multiplication. 18 plus 7 is 25, and it's still x. If you have 18 x's and your friend gives you 7 more x's, you have 25 x's. So just that's a friendly reminder on common mistakes that I see. And this one, this is the killer. When they ask you to substitute those numbers in for the expression and replace the variables x and y, it's when you have a negative number with a power attached to it. What you are looking at on here is if you take -3 and power it to 2 or just squared like this, you're going to be surprised to see that -3 squared is -9 and think that your calculator is wrong. Well, your calculator does order of operations, so it knows it's supposed to do exponents first. After it does exponents, then it multiplies by that -1. So what you need to do to correct that is any and all times that you're ever using a negative with a power button, squared or any other, you've got to make sure that you put it in parentheses, because now your calculator knows to do parentheses first. Take care of everything in there, -3 squared. And -3 squared is 9, which we know is correct, because if we take -3 times itself, you're going to get a positive 9. So when this is typed into the calculator, you can't just type in 7 times -3 squared. You have to do 7 times parentheses -3 squared minus 2 times 5. I'm going to continue to beg of you to keep putting all of it in your calculator at once. 7 times -3 in parentheses squared minus 2 times 5 equals 53. Not 7 times, don't figure out -3 squared first and find out that's 9, then take 9 times 7 and get it 63, and then take 2 times 5 and make that 10, and then take 63 minus 10 and make that 53. There's way too many calculations to do, way too much room, you're leaving way too much room for error. And finally, there's a few of these on your assignment. Oops, let me undo that so that you don't see it all at once. When you are asked to evaluate expressions that are in a fraction, you've got to make sure that you're taking care of the numerator first, then the denominator, and last you do division. You don't want to do division until last. The problem is, if you type it in your calculator as 6 plus 3 times 4 divided by 2 squared minus 8, it's going to do exponents first and then multiplication and division. We don't want it to do multiplication first and then division. We want to do the numerator first. So you are expected to put in parentheses the numerator, parentheses 6 plus 3 times 4 parentheses, then divided by 2 squared minus 8 parentheses also around that. If you type it in properly, you'll see this parentheses 6 plus 3 times 4, close your parentheses, divided by parentheses 2 squared, use your shortcut squared button, not power 2, minus 8 parentheses, you'll get -4.5. -4.5 is the correct answer. If you did the exact same thing without parentheses, 6 plus 3 times 4 divided by 2 squared minus 8, you're going to get 1. Because what's it going to do first? Exponents, 2 squared. Then multiply and divide, so it'll take 3 times 4 divided by 2 squared. Then it's going to add the 6, and it's going to finish with subtracting 8. That's not what you're asking for. And I will tell you one last time, don't do this one step at a time. Don't figure this out and say, well, that's 12. So then if I add that, it's 18. And then this is 4. And then I subtract 8, and I get -4. And then if I take 18, that's a lot of steps. Know how to use your calculator properly to save you the time. That's what the skills review is going to work on. Please use your calculator. You don't hear a math teacher say that very often, but please, please use your calculator and use it correctly. All in one sweeping motion and enter. Of course, that's not the right one. Did you know that you could hit the up arrow and find your other one? There, that's the right one. Do it right. Learn your skills.